So my name is Meg Clawson, and I am a graduate level clinician counselor at Airmid Wellness and Counseling Center. And I basically fell in love with counseling in my early 20s when I started doing a lot of my own personal work. I came across great counselors, some not so great counselors, and I feel very passionate about helping clients to really become informed consumers of psychotherapy. What is counseling? Counseling is a relationship, essentially, and it's a relationship where you, as the client, are the most important person in that relationship. Counselors operate within an ethical code that protects the client's confidentiality, and clients don't have to necessarily pick the very first counselor that they find. That's part of what I help clients to understand in our first couple meetings is that therapeutic rapport is so important. So if you need to go through a couple before you find the one that feels like that right fit for you, then go ahead and do that. That's really important. Who is counseling for? I think as a society, we still have this idea that counseling is where you go when there's something just really wrong with you. And maybe you've had an experience or you know of someone who's had an experience where they showed up for counseling and they were like, here it is. This is just everything about me that's wrong. And the counselor was able to kind of mirror back or reflect back. This is everything that I see about you that's right. And that to me is essentially what counseling is. It's a strength-based perspective. I operate out of a strengths-based clinical set of skills where I always try to make sure that we bring things back to what's right with you, and that the client leaves with this sense of, even though we've done a lot of inner work, that work might be really hard, but they leave knowing what's right with them. We know from research that the biggest factor is, again, that rapport. And so all the other interventions that I've been trained on how to use, they work because that rapport is already there. Does the client feel seen? Does the client feel heard? And so that's what makes counseling work. I work with folks across the lifespan, so 3 to 103. My clinical training leaned more into children and adolescents, and so I specialize in children and adolescents, but I also really enjoy working with adults. And you can often find me in the playroom at Airmid Wellness and Counseling Center. The playroom is an amazing space for kids. It's a space where they can walk into and just know that even though they might have a diagnosis, and even though we might clinically look at what the symptoms are that are showing up, that they are not that diagnosis, that is not who they are. And that's what I'm really good at. I'm really good at looking at a child from a clinical eye and seeing what symptoms are showing up and how we need to plan treatment for their mental health and well-being. But I also help them to really see and understand their strengths, build upon those strengths, and then develop the coping strategies to be able to move forward and be happy.